A French TV station once aired a documentary about China's leftover women, which unexpectedly sparked intense discussions among French netizens. Some couldn't even last 3 minutes before they couldn't help but express their frustration. What's even more frightening is that this is a dilemma that all single women in China are currently facing or will inevitably face in the future. Su Min, 28, from Beijing, an only child, graduated from Communication University of China and is now a broadcast host. She comes from a wealthy family with a good income. Logically, she should have no shortage of admirers, but unexpectedly, she's still struggling to find someone to marry. At an offline matchmaking event, she met a returning overseas PhD. The two hit it off immediately upon their first meeting, and privately, they had a good impression of each other. Su Min was very fond of him, so she went home and told her parents all about her matchmaking experience. Because she liked him, she deliberately hid his shortcomings and only told her parents that he was a civil servant. After hearing about him, her mother was very pleased and encouraged her to spend more time with him. If you wait too long and get married later, we'll be old and won't be able to take care of ourselves, let alone help you. This led to Su Min feeling even more positive about the situation, and the two continued to grow closer. However, the man's lack of a Beijing hukou, household registration, was met with opposition from her mother, and ultimately, the relationship didn't result in marriage. Su Min was heartbroken and had no choice but to continue searching for the next suitable candidate in the marriage market. In China, marriage is not just a matter for two individuals, but also for two families, with much influence from Chinese family ethics and values. Su Min's criteria for a partner aren't low. She requires the man to be of good character, well-educated, and from a family with a similar or better financial background, especially rejecting men from rural areas. Su Min's mother believes that people from rural backgrounds come with too many relatives and that marrying them would only bring additional complications. But men who meet these conditions also have their own set of criteria for a partner. In the matchmaking market, there is a well-established rule that men prefer younger women, while women prefer financial stability. Because of this, many of the leftover women are actually very successful, whereas the men who are still single tend to be the opposite. Su Min has always been a good girl who listens to her mother, and even her standards for choosing a partner were set by her mother. This has gradually led Su Min into a state of depression, to the point where she needed psychological counseling. Her mother's disapproval weighed heavily on her, 80% to 90% of the time. After some psychological counseling, Su Min decided to talk to her mother. "You need to stop interfering so much." But her mother only replied with a cold laugh. Su Min continued to accuse her mother of controlling her life. She became increasingly emotional, even asking, "Why did my dad marry you? Why did he even choose you?" The conversation escalated as Su Min expressed her frustrations, crying uncontrollably. Ultimately, the negotiation between mother and daughter failed, and Su Min was still like a puppet, letting her mother dictate and control her life. Her heart continued to break with each failed relationship. There is a saying that women between the ages of 25 and 30 are like sandwich cookies, caught in a dilemma where they can't see a clear path forward or backward. This invisible anxiety looms over almost every older single woman. Whether they choose to stay single or get married, there is always something to sacrifice. Older single women often feel lost. But does marriage represent a perfect solution? Gai Qi is the only woman in the documentary who is married. She has a PhD, a Beijing hukou, and her husband is from a rural background with little formal education. At one point, Gai Qi also had high standards for a partner, wanting a city hukou, a car, a house, and a graduate degree. But as she aged and faced pressure from her family and relatives, she had to lower her standards. Fortunately, her match, although from a rural background, was an ambitious young man. Though younger than her, he was attentive and caring, and over time, Gai Qi's heart settled, and she found clarity. In just a year and a half, she completed the 3 big life events: matchmaking, marriage, and having a child. She chose the path that most people would choose, ordinary and conventional. On her wedding day, her mother seemed even more excited than she was. "I think you're more excited than me," Gai Qi said. "You always have to give something up when you get married, but it's just a tradition." Her husband arrived with flowers and sang a love song to welcome her, and Gai Qi finally smiled. When her husband recited the wedding vows, she realized she was more moved than she had imagined. I studied literature, but today I don't want to use any fancy words. I just want to live the most ordinary, mundane happiness with you. After marriage, Gaiqi resigned from her position as a professor at Beijing Normal University to join her husband in Guangzhou to pursue further career development. Though the marriage was somewhat forced, Gaiqi understood that marriage requires compromise. Family stability doesn't always depend on age, and life should be carefully nurtured, so she didn't give up on self-improvement. After giving birth to a daughter, her in-laws helped take care of the child while she continued working and giving lectures. While her marriage might not be ideal, there was a certain grounded feeling. However, unmarried students in her classes started questioning her statements, asking why she always implied that marriage is the only path to happiness. "I never said marriage is the ultimate success," Gaiqi explained. "I just think that right now I'm happy. Before I got married, my life was very interesting, full of variety. But after marriage, it's not as exciting. It's boring at times, but it's also more fulfilling. Marriage requires giving up some things, but it also brings other rewards. Marriage isn't a fairy tale ending, but the beginning of a new life. It's important to maintain optimism, focus on the present, and not dwell on past regrets or anxieties about love. Love is always a stage, and happiness depends on how we feel in the moment."